All right, everybody, welcome back to another deep dive with us. Today we are looking at this pretty wild Politico article all about Barron Trump and podcasts. So yeah, hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already, and leave a comment down below. Let us know what you think about this whole thing. It's pretty crazy, right? Barron Trump podcasts, Donald Trump, the 2024 election.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting combination of things to see in the news cycle.
So if you haven't read the Politico article yet, it basically says that Barron Trump has been kind of like the podcast whisperer to his dad,
Yeah.
recommending shows for him to go on. And it's apparently like a pretty big part of the campaign strategy.
Yeah, it seems like they're really trying to reach a different audience than maybe we're used to seeing. People who are younger, more online, maybe not watching cable news all day.
Totally. And it seems to be working. I mean, the article mentions that when Trump went on Theo Von's podcast, it got like over 14 million views or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, that's huge. That's way more than a lot of like traditional news programs get.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And they quote one of Trump's advisors in the article.
Yeah.
Jason Miller, I think. And he calls Barron's podcast picks ratings gold, which, I mean,
Yeah, that's a pretty good way to put it.
it's pretty funny.
I mean, it's definitely been getting attention.
Yeah. And it's interesting because the article talks about how podcasts are kind of a way for Trump to like get around the mainstream media,
Yeah.
and maybe control the narrative a little bit more.
Yeah, because it's a more casual setting, right? Like he's
Yeah.
not being grilled by some, hard-hitting journalist. He's just having a conversation.
Right. And it's like a more relatable kind of setting, too. Like I remember reading this part where Trump's talking to Theo Von, and he's like, yeah, Barron told me I should come on your show.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Like, how funny is that?
It's kind of endearing in a way, Like it makes him seem like a normal dad just talking to his kid about podcasts.
Totally. And, maybe that's part of the strategy, too. Like maybe they're trying to show a different side of Trump,
Yeah.
but one that's more human, more relatable, especially to younger people.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah.
Because let's face it, his image isn't exactly, the most popular with young voters.
Right.
So maybe this is a way to kind of soften that a little bit.
Yeah, make him seem less scary or whatever.
Exactly.
But the big question is, like, does any of this actually matter? Like, are people going to vote for Trump just because he went on some podcasts?
That's the million-dollar question, right? Like, does this actually translate into votes? It's
Yeah.
hard to say. The article talks about how, young people are notoriously hard to get to the polls.
Oh, yeah.
So it's possible that this is all just, a big publicity stunt, but it's also possible that it could actually have an impact. I mean, we're talking about millions of views here.
Right. And like the article even says that podcasts could become like a really important battleground for future elections.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. People are spending more and more time listening to podcasts.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So it makes sense that candidates would start to pay more attention to them.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's kind of like the Wild West of political campaigning right now. Like, no one really knows what's going to work.
Exactly. It's uncharted territory.
Yeah. But there's definitely some potential downsides too, right?
Exactly.
Like, what about the whole, like, avoiding tough questions thing?
Right. I mean, some people might say that this is just a way for Trump to avoid scrutiny from the press. Like he can control the message more easily on a podcast.
Yeah.
And there's less accountability.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, there are definitely some valid concerns there.
Yeah. It's a tough one. I don't know. What do you think? Like, is this a good strategy for Trump or is it kind of shady?
I mean, I think it's smart in some ways, like it's definitely getting him attention. And it's probably reaching people who wouldn't normally listen to him. But yeah, I do think there's a risk that it could backfire, Like if people start to think that he's just trying to avoid real questions.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's a gamble.
Totally. Well, this is definitely a fascinating deep dive. We've got Barron Trump, the podcast kingmaker. We've got the power of podcasts in the 2024 election.
Yeah.
And we've got a whole bunch of questions about like the future of media and politics.
Yeah, it's a lot to unpack.
It is. But that's what we do here on the Deep Dive. So thank you for joining us. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And let us know in the comments what you think about this whole Barron Trump podcast thing. Is it brilliant? Is it shady? We want to know. See you next time.
See you, Realtor.